The grand hall of Thalreen Prime was filled with light and music. Tall alien nobles with silver skin and glowing eyes moved gracefully under floating crystal lamps. Their voices blended with the hum of technology and the whispers of power, and among them, standing awkwardly near the back, was a single human. His name was Ethan Cole. He wore a translation badge on his chest, the mark of an interpreter working for the Galactic Embassy. To the aliens, he was a curiosity, a relic from a violent and primitive species, but to himself, he was just trying to survive in a world that never stopped reminding him that he did not belong. At the center of the hall stood Princess Serenia, the daughter of the Thalreen Emperor. Her long blue hair shimmered like light on water, her golden armor shining as she greeted diplomats and leaders. Ethan had seen her only from a distance before. She was calm, proud, and almost unreal. Every movement she made carried grace. Like a song turned into motion, he was supposed to be silent, translating for the human envoy beside him, but his eyes kept returning to her, drawn by something he couldn't name. The envoy whispered something, and Ethan nodded automatically. His mind wasn't on his work. He watched the princess laugh softly with another noble, her voice like distant bells without meaning to. He breathed the words under his breath. "I wish I could marry her," he whispered, barely louder than a thought. But the Thalreen Palace was not a place for secrets. Every sound, every heartbeat, was recorded by the hovering drones that filled the air. Ethan's whisper, small as it was caught by one of the drones and amplified across the central speaker. The music stopped, every head turned. 1,000 glowing eyes fixed on him. The envoy froze in horror. Guards stepped forward, their weapons glowing. And in the echoing silence, Ethan realized what he had done. His heart pounded like thunder in his chest. He wanted to vanish, to rewind time, to disappear into the air, but it was too late. A voice broke the silence, soft but clear. It came from the raised platform at the center of the hall. Princess Serenia was looking straight at him, her golden eyes calm, her face unreadable. The crowd waited for her to speak, expecting anger, punishment, or disgust. Instead, she smiled slightly and said, "My answer is yes." Gasps filled the hall. The nobles shouted in outrage, their words overlapping like crashing waves. "Blasphemy! A human?"
"He insulted the royal bloodline."
Guards surrounded Ethan in seconds. Grabbing his arms roughly, he tried to speak, to explain, but the words died in his throat. The envoy shouted for mercy, but no one listened. The emperor himself rose from his throne, his eyes burning with fury. "Take that creature away," he commanded. But before the guards could move him, Serenia raised her hand. Her voice carried across the hall again, calm and strong. "You heard me," she said. "My answer is yes." The hall went silent again. Her father's face turned pale with disbelief. "Serenia," he warned, "you bring shame to our house." She bowed her head slightly, but her voice did not shake. "Maybe shame is what we need to remember what love is." The guards hesitated, unsure who to obey. The emperor's voice thundered, "Enough! Lock him away until dawn." Ethan was dragged from the hall, his wrists bound in glowing cuffs. As he was pulled through the corridors, he caught one last glimpse of the princess. Her eyes followed him, not with pity, but with something that looked like determination. The cell was cold and metallic, the air filled with the hum of energy fields. Ethan sat alone, his mind spinning. He couldn't believe what had happened. He had spoken without thinking, a whisper from a foolish dream, and now he might die for it. Hours passed in silence until footsteps echoed outside his cell. A shadow appeared beyond the light. The door slid open, and there she was, Princess Serenia. Dressed in a dark cloak, he stood up, confused and afraid. "What are you doing here?" he asked. She smiled faintly. "Saving you." Before he could answer, she deactivated the cuffs with a wave of her hand. The glow faded and his wrists were free. "Why?" he asked. "You don't even know me." Her eyes softened. "Maybe not," she said, "but I know truth when I hear it." She turned toward the corridor, her tone low. "You must leave before sunrise." He shook his head. "They'll hunt me." "They already are," she said. "But if you stay, you'll die." He hesitated, staring at her in disbelief. "You said yes," he whispered. "Was that just to save me?" Her expression didn't change, but her voice grew softer. "I said yes," she replied. 'Cause I wanted to." For a moment, the world stood still. The hum of the walls faded, the cold light dimmed. Ethan realized this wasn't just a rescue. It was the beginning of something dangerous, something that could burn worlds before she turned to leave. She pressed a small silver device into his hand. "If you ever need me," she said, "activate this, and I'll find you." He looked at her one last time. "Why are you helping a human?" he asked quietly. She smiled, her golden eyes bright in the shadows. "Because," she said, "sometimes the heart must start a war to find peace." The door closed behind her, and the alarm lights began to flash red across the city. Outside, the night sky filled with ships and searchlights. And as Ethan ran into the darkness with the device glowing in his hand, he knew one thing for sure. His whisper had started something far bigger than love. It had started a war. The city of Thalreen Prime never slept, its towers glowing like rivers of fire beneath the endless night. Every skylane burned with ships searching for one man. The human who had spoken to the princess. Ethan ran through the lower districts. Through steam, neon and shadows, his breath sharp and fast. The silver device she gave him pulsed softly in his hand. Guiding him away from the patrols above, he didn't know where he was going. Only that every step could be his last. Back in the royal citadel, Princess Serenia stood before her father's council. Alien nobles with eyes like blades watched her from their thrones. They called her traitor, fool, and dreamer. They demanded she confess that her words were only a joke, a misunderstanding to calm the crowd. But she stood straight, her voice calm and clear. "I meant every word." The chamber filled with outrage, lightning crackling from the Emperor's staff. "You would risk our empire for a human?" he thundered. Serenia met his eyes without fear. "I would risk it for the truth," she said while the court raged. Ethan reached the outer rim of the city, a maze of rust and dust. He found a broken cargo bay and collapsed inside. His body trembled with exhaustion, his mind replaying her words again and again. She had said yes, not out of pity, but choice. He didn't understand why, but the thought gave him strength. Outside, rain fell over the city like sparks from heaven, washing the smoke from his skin. He looked at the silver device, its light blinking faster now. A small hologram shimmered to life, Serenia's image pale and beautiful in the glow. "Ethan," the message said, "if you're seeing this, they have discovered what I've done. Run to the old docks, a ship waits there. Trust no one." The image vanished. Leaving silence behind, Ethan rose, his body sore but his heart steady. He wrapped the cloak tighter around him and stepped into the storm. Every alley held danger, every light could mean death. He passed alien workers who turned away in fear, even among the slaves and scavengers. The name of the human who defied the Emperor was already spreading. The Whisperer, they called him, the one she chose in the royal chambers. Serenia watched the same rain from her window. Her hands trembled as she saw warships leaving orbit. They weren't searching, they were preparing. If the Emperor found Ethan first, it wouldn't be a capture. It would be execution. Her closest maid, Lyra, whispered in fear, "My lady, you will be banished if he lives." Serenia turned, her golden eyes hard as iron. "Then I will share his exile," she said. "I made him a promise." At the docks, Ethan reached an ancient freighter hidden behind supply towers. Its metal frame was old but strong, and a faint human emblem still marked the hull. He climbed aboard carefully, finding the cockpit lit by dim blue lights. The ship's AI flickered to life, its voice rough with age. "Human biosignature confirmed. Welcome aboard. Designation Outreach 9. Ethan smiled weakly. "Guess I'm not the first of us here," he murmured. He activated the engines, but alarms screamed across the bay. Dozens of alien troopers stormed the platform, their weapons glowing bright. Ethan slammed the controls, shouting, "Come on! Come on!" The ship roared, turbines spinning. Blasts shook the hull as plasma fire struck the wings. Then, just as the troopers closed in, a shockwave tore through the docks. A royal cruiser descended through the smoke, marked with the crest of House Lissari, Serenia's own seal. Its energy shields flared as it hovered above the platform. From its ramp she appeared, cloak whipping in the wind. Ethan stared in disbelief. "You came," he said. She smiled faintly. "You didn't think I'd let you fly alone, did you?" Her guards surrounded them, forming a wall of light against the troopers. "By order of the princess," the captain shouted. "Stand down." The soldiers hesitated. No one dared fire on the royal bloodline. Serenia reached for Ethan's hand, her voice calm but fierce. "Go now," she said, "before my father changes his mind." They ran aboard the freighter together. Engines screamed as the ship lifted into the dark sky. The planet fell away beneath them, lightning chasing their wake. Ethan looked at her, his voice unsteady. "You've just declared war on your people." She met his eyes, her tone steady. "No, Ethan. I've declared faith in mine as the stars opened before them." Alarms blinked red. A message came through the comms in the Emperor's voice. "Cold as steel. Serenia of Thalreen," it said. "You are stripped of title and blood, and the human beside you is marked for death. Every world will hunt you." The transmission ended. Silence filled the cockpit. Serenia closed her eyes, whispering, "Then every world will see the truth." Ethan took the controls, the void stretching endlessly before them. "We can't go back," he said quietly. She nodded. "We were never meant to." Far behind them, the lights of Thalreen Prime flickered and vanished into the distance. And somewhere deep within the ship's core, the old human systems came alive again. Coordinates appeared. Ancient Terran outposts long forgotten by the galaxy. Serenia leaned forward, her eyes wide with wonder. "What is that?" she asked. Ethan smiled faintly. "Home," he said. The stars shimmered around them as the freighter vanished into the jump gate. And across the galaxy the legend began to spread. The princess who defied her throne and the human whose whisper started a war. The freighter drifted beyond the storm clouds of Thalreen Prime, its engines glowing red in the black void. Ethan sat in the pilot's seat staring at the endless stars, the silence heavy between him and Princess Serenia. They had escaped the Emperor's reach for now, but the price was everything she had ever known. Her crown, her home, her people, all left behind for one reckless whisper that had become destiny. She watched him quietly, her golden eyes soft in the dim light. "You could still leave me at the next port," she said gently. "Before the Empire finds us both," he shook his head, a faint smile breaking through the exhaustion. "You saved me, Princess. I'm not leaving you to face this alone." For a moment she said nothing, but the way her lips curved told him that words were no longer enough. They traveled for days, hiding between asteroid fields and abandoned trade routes. Each night, Serenia mapped safe passages while Ethan repaired the aging ship. She admired the way he worked, clumsy with alien tools yet determined. He admired her courage, royalty turned fugitive yet calm like starlight in chaos. Two worlds that should never have met now shared one heartbeat in the dark. But peace never lasts long in the galaxy. An emergency signal cracked through their comms, an imperial broadcast sent to every system. "By decree of the Emperor," the voice declared, "Serenia of Thalreen is to be captured alive. The human executed on sight." Ethan clenched his fists. "They won't stop." Serenia met his gaze, her tone steady. "Then neither will we." Hours later, a warship appeared on their scanners. House Kale, one of her father's most ruthless generals, had tracked their energy trail before Ethan could react. The ship fired, beams of plasma slicing across the void. The freighter shook violently, alarms screaming through the cockpit. "Shields down to 40%, the AI reported. Ethan gritted his teeth. "We can't outrun them." Serenia placed a hand on his shoulder, her voice calm even as sparks flew. "Then we don't run," she said. "We fight," he stared at her, surprised. "Fight? With what? We're a cargo ship." Her eyes burned like suns. "Not anymore." She entered a series of codes into the console, and suddenly the ship's hidden panels opened. Ancient human weapons, long sealed and forgotten, came to life. "This vessel was built from Terran tech," she said. "A relic from your people's first alliance." Ethan blinked, disbelief turning to awe. "You kept human weapons?" She smiled faintly. "Maybe fate kept them for you." They turned the freighter to face the warship. Cannons charged, engines roared, and the stars flashed with light. The first volley tore through the enemy shields. Ethan shouted, "Direct hit!" The second barrage came from the warship, ripping through their side hull. Serenia steadied herself against the console, blood on her lip but fire in her eyes. "Ethan," she said, "if we fall here, at least they'll remember why." He took her hand for one heartbeat. "Then let's make them remember." They dove into the enemy line, firing everything the ship had left. The impact lit the sky like a dying sun. When the smoke cleared, the Imperial ship was breaking apart, flames spilling into the void. Their own vessel drifted. Crippled but alive, Ethan exhaled slowly, his body trembling. "We did it." Serenia looked out at the wreckage. "No," she whispered. "We survived, but the war has only begun." Moments later, A new signal echoed across the comms. It was not Imperial, it was human, unknown ship, the voice said. This is Commander Ryan Tor of the Black Spear. Identify yourself. Ethan froze, recognizing the name from human history. Ryan Tor, the hero who vanished during the fall of Earth. Serenya's eyes widened. Another human? Ethan smiled faintly. Not just another. Someone who might help us win. The stars shifted as a massive shadow moved across the scanner. A colossal black warship emerged from hyperspace, its hull covered in glowing Terran symbols. The Black Spear had returned. Ethan looked at Serenya, his voice steady but filled with wonder. I think your yes just changed the galaxy. As they docked with the ancient vessel, human soldiers in worn armor saluted him. Serenya stepped beside him, unafraid of their curious stares one by one. They knelt, not to her, but to him, the human who had survived the Thalreen court. The legend of the Whisper had spread faster than light, and in that moment, Ethan realized their love was no longer a secret. It was a spark that could reignite humanity's fire. Far below, the Emperor watched from his throne, his eyes dark with rage. Prepare the fleets, he ordered. If love is what they wage war with, then love will burn. But across the stars, another voice whispered louder. Humans never kneel. The war for hearts and fire had begun. The vast hangar of the Black Spear stretched endlessly, filled with the hum of ancient engines and the scent of metal and memory. Ethan stepped onto the deck beside Princess Serenya, his eyes wide as the crew of humans saluted in silent unity. These were the remnants of a lost generation, survivors of Earth's last war, men and women who had slept in cryo-chambers waiting for a signal that never came. Until now, Commander Ryan Tor stood tall at the front, his scarred armor glowing faintly under the light. He studied Ethan with sharp eyes, seeing both confusion and courage in the young human's face. So, Ryan said, you're the one who made an empire tremble with a whisper. Ethan smiled faintly. Guess I talk too much. The soldiers laughed softly, but the respect in their gaze was real. Serenya bowed slightly, her silver cloak flowing behind her. I am the one who answered his whisper, she said. And for that my people will hunt us both. Ryan nodded. Then we'll give them something worth chasing. They walked through the command hall where the galaxies shimmered on a massive hollow map. Red lights marked the Thalreen fleets, dozens of warships spreading through nearby systems. They're coming, Ryan said, and they won't stop until you're both dead. Ethan clenched his fists. Then we fight. Ryan smiled grimly. That's the spirit Earth was built on. Over the next days, the Black Spear's hangars came alive. Old mechs were rearmed, plasma cannons cleaned, Terran AI systems reactivated. Serenya watched the humans work with awe. Their precision, their unity, their stubborn will. No fear, no hesitation, only purpose. She turned to Ethan. Your people, they move like one heartbeat. He nodded. Because when the galaxy tried to break us, we learned to survive together. But not all humans welcomed her. Some whispered that she was the reason their species was nearly wiped out. Others called her a spy. Ethan heard their murmurs and faced them head-on. She saved me when no one else would, he said to them, his voice steady. And I'll stand beside her until my last breath. The soldiers went silent, seeing in him the same fire that once carried Earth through its darkest days. When the alarm rang, the ship trembled. The Thalreen fleet had found them. Dozens of enemy warships surrounded their position near the nebula divide. Energy readings spiked, weapons locked. Commander, shouted the comms officer. They've brought the Emperor's dreadnought. Ryan turned calmly. Then today, we remind them what humans are. The battle began with light brighter than any sunrise. Lasers tore through the nebula clouds, explosions painting the void red and gold. The Black Spear moved like a predator among giants. Human ships darted between the enemy lines, striking with surgical precision. Ethan sat at the gunnery console beside Serenya, firing at wave after wave of drones. Every blast they made felt like a heartbeat echoing through eternity. But then the dreadnought fired. A single beam of pure energy ripped across the battlefield, striking the Black Spear's shields. The ship groaned. Alarms flared, lights flickered. Ryan shouted, "Redirect all power to the forward barrier." Shields collapsing, the AI warned. Ethan gritted his teeth. We can't take another hit. Serenya pressed her hand over his. Then we won't. She rose and ran toward the energy core chamber. Her hair glowing in the emergency light, Ethan followed, shouting, "What are you doing?" She turned, her voice calm but fierce. "Thalreen energy runs through my blood. I can stabilize the core." He froze, realizing what she meant. "It will kill you," he said. She smiled softly. "If it means saving you, saving them, it's worth it." Before he could stop her, she placed her hands on the core, golden energy surging from her body into the heart of the ship. The black spear roared, its engines burning brighter than stars. Every cannon lit up, every drone vaporized. The dreadnought's shields collapsed under the sudden surge. Ryan's voice thundered through the comms. "Fire all batteries." The sky exploded in a wave of light that could be seen from orbit. When the light faded, the enemy fleet was gone. Only debris and silence remained. Ethan rushed to the core chamber. Serenia lay on the floor, weak but alive, her skin dimly glowing. He knelt beside her, holding her hand, his voice shaking. "You saved us again." She looked at him with tired eyes. "You humans fight with fire," she whispered. "I thought I could learn from it, but I think I've become part of it." He smiled through the tears. "Then you're one of us now." Ryan entered quietly, looking at them both. "You've done more than survive," he said. "You've united two worlds that swore they'd never speak." He turned to Ethan. "You're not just a man who spoke to a princess. You're the symbol of what we lost, and what we could become again." The crew of the Black Spear gathered in silence as the stars burned outside. They looked to Ethan, to Serenia, to the bond that had defied empires. And for the first time in centuries, humanity didn't stand alone across the comms. A message echoed through every channel. To all systems, humanity stands again, and we will never kneel. As the Black Spear sailed through the wreckage, its lights shining like a promise reborn, Ethan held Serenia close, his heart steady, his voice soft. "We started this with a whisper," he said, "but it ended with fire, and somewhere far beyond, in the Emperor's dark palace, thunder cracked through the silence. His advisors trembled as he rose from his throne, his voice a whisper of fury. "Find them," he said. "Bring me their ashes," but deep within the stars, humanity was already rising again, and no power in the galaxy could make them kneel. The war was over, but the galaxy still trembled. Fragments of the Thalreen fleet drifted among the stars, silent proof of what humanity and one alien princess had done together. On the bridge of the Black Spear, the lights were dim, the air calm after endless battle. Ethan Cole stood by the viewing glass, watching the sunrise over a distant blue world. It was not Earth, but for the first time in his life, it felt like home. Behind him, Princess Serenia walked slowly, wrapped in a pale cloak that shimmered with faint golden light. Her body still carried the glow of the energy that saved them, but it was fading each day. The doctors warned her she might not survive long, yet her smile never left. Ethan turned to her, his voice soft. "You shouldn't be standing." She smiled faintly. "If this is what the end feels like, I'd rather face it standing beside you, across the galaxy." Something had changed. News of their victory spread faster than light. Human colonies that once hid in shadows began to rise, waving banners of freedom again. Even alien worlds that had once hated humanity began to whisper new words. Hope, courage, unity. The story of the human who whispered love to a princess had become legend. One evening, the crew gathered in the main hall, the hum of engines like a heartbeat beneath their feet. Ryan Tor stood at the center, his old armor polished for the first time in decades. He looked at Ethan and Serenia, both standing hand in hand, their faces calm but proud. "Today," he said, his voice echoing, "two souls bind not just their hearts, but their worlds." A hush fell over the crowd as he drew a small Terran insignia, the crest of Earth, and placed it before them. "This," he continued, "is the first bond between human and Thalreen, a promise written in blood and starlight." Ethan took Serenia's hands, his heart pounding. His voice trembled, not from fear but from the weight of everything they had survived. "When I whispered those words," he said, "I never thought they would reach you." Her eyes shone softly. "And when I answered," she said, "I never thought they would change the galaxy." He smiled, tears shining under the ship's light. "I don't care about thrones or legends, I just want you." She laughed gently. "Then you have me forever." The ceremony was simple. No golden halls or royal crowns. Only stars beyond the glass and the heartbeat of the Black Spear. When their hands touched, the ship's systems glowed. as if even the ancient Terran AI understood what this moment meant. A single message appeared on the display. Unity protocol activated. Across the network, old Terran satellites reconnected, sending waves of light through the void one by one. Beacons awakened on distant human worlds. Every screen, every transmitter, carried the same image, and a human and an alien, hand in hand. The Emperor of Thalreen watched the transmission in silence. His once furious eyes filled with something unfamiliar, sorrow and pride. He had lost his daughter but gained something far greater. He whispered into the empty throne room, "Perhaps this is what peace was always meant to look like." Months passed, and the alliance grew stronger. The Thalreen and humans began rebuilding together. Ships once used for war became vessels for trade and exploration. Children born under the joint banner of two species became symbols of a new dawn. And at the center of it all were Ethan and Serenia, leaders not by crown but by choice. Yet even peace carried its price. Serenia's strength faded with each passing day. The light within her slowly dimming, she refused every attempt to heal her, saying softly, "My life was never meant to be long, only meaningful." Ethan stayed by her side, never leaving her for a moment. When she grew too weak to walk, he carried her to the observation deck. They sat together, watching the twin suns rise over the newly built human Thalreen capital below. She leaned her head against his shoulder, her voice barely a whisper. "Do you regret it?" He shook his head. "Not one breath." She smiled faintly. "Then promise me something." "Anything," he said. "Promise me you'll keep building," she whispered. "Promise me the stars will never go dark again." He held her close, his eyes wet with tears. "I swear it." When her light finally faded, the ship's systems dimmed in silence. The crew lowered their heads. Even the AI spoke softly. "Princess Serenia of Thalreen, recorded as ally of humanity." Ethan stood alone in the observation deck, his heart breaking but steady. He looked out at the stars she had loved so much and whispered, "You didn't just change me, you changed everything." Years later, songs would still be sung of the whisper that became a war, of the human who loved an alien princess and built peace with his tears. And carved upon the hull of the Black Spear, in letters that glowed eternal, was the vow he made that day. 2 hearts, 1 galaxy. No chains, because even death could not silence what began as love. Because a whisper from a human heart had changed the stars forever.